evening, everyone. Can you hear me now? Everybody's here? All right, we're going to get started. My name is Scott Yaw. I'm the chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Westtown Township. With me are Mike DiDomenico and Carol DeWolf, also up on the stage. At the township table are solicitor Pat McKenna to my immediate left and Rob Pingbar, our township manager. We're here this evening on the conditional use application for the Robinson tract filed by Toll PA, Roman numeral 18 LP, for the Crebilly Farm. We've referred to this as Crebilly II. As everyone is aware, the township has gone through conditional use proceedings as well as court proceedings on a prior application for development, which we are referring to as Crebilly I. With that brief introduction, and given the fact that we don't have a flag, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our solicitor, Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. If you can't hear me, let me know. It's not typically the complaint that I get. For those who are arriving just now, if there's anyone that would like to request party status, we have forms in the back of the auditorium that we ask you to please complete. We'll have you submit them when we have everyone come up and make your request. So I have a number of housekeeping matters that I have to get through tonight as it's the first hearing, so I'd ask everyone to bear with me a little bit. We are here on the conditional use application of Toll PA Roman numeral 18 LP. This property is more commonly referred to as Crebilly Farm and consists of a number of parcels, which I will not read. The parcels total approximately 322 acres of land and are bounded by Wilmington Pike to the east, West Pleasant Grove Road to the north, South New Street to the west, and South Street Road to the south. The parcels are owned by Crebilly Farm Family Associates LP, David M. Robinson, Laurie Robinson, and David G. Robinson. The applicant is the equitable owner of the parcels. The parcels are located in the AC Agricultural Cluster Residential and R1 residential districts of the township. The parcels are currently used for agricultural and residential uses. The applicant is seeking conditional use approval pursuant to section 170-900 of the zoning ordinance to permit a flexible development consisting of a total of 319 residential units, consisting of 2 existing homes, 182 single-family detached dwellings, and 135 townhomes. The development would also contain internal streets, utilities, stormwater management facilities, landscaping, community recreation facilities, and other improvements. I have a number of board exhibits for the hearing this evening, so again, please bear with me as I have to have them all marked. Exhibit B1 is a September 24th, 2019 letter from myself to the applicant's counsel, Greg Edelman, that enclosed a copy of the notice of the hearing, which was originally set for October 14th, 2019. Exhibit B2 is a copy of the notice of the hearing for October 14th, 2019. Exhibit B3 is the proof of publication of the notice of hearing for October 14th in the Daily Local News on September 27th and October 4th, 2019. Exhibit B4 is the affidavit of the posting of the notice for the October 14th hearing by William Etheridge, Township Zoning Officer, dated October 2nd, 2019. Exhibit B5 is the affidavit of mailing of the notice for the October 14th hearing by the Township Zoning Officer, dated September 27th, 2019, with the list of property owners who received the notice. Exhibit B6 is a tax parcel map depicting the location of the subject 11 parcels. Exhibit B7 is the Westtown Township zoning ordinance incorporated by reference. Exhibit B8 is the October 10th, 2019 letter from the applicant's counsel, Greg Edelman, to myself, extending the deadline to conduct the first conditional use hearing until November 19th, 2019. Exhibit B9 is the notice of the hearing for the November 19th, 2019 hearing. Exhibit B10 is the proof of publication of the notice of the hearing for November 19th in the Daily Local News on October 29th and November 5th, 2019. Exhibit B11 is the affidavit of posting of the notice for November 19th hearing by the Township Zoning Officer, dated October 28th, 2019. Exhibit B12 is the affidavit of mailing of the notice for the November 19th hearing by the Township Zoning Officer, dated October 28th, 2019, with list of the property owners to whom the notice was sent. Exhibit B13 is the November 12th, 2019 letter from counsel for the applicant, Greg Edelman, to myself, extending the deadline to conduct the first conditional use hearing until this evening, December 18th, 2019. Exhibit B14 is the notice of the hearing for December 18th, 2019. Exhibit B15 is the proof of publication of the notice of the hearing for December 18 in the Daily Local News on November 27th and December 4th, 2019. Exhibit B16 is the affidavit of posting of the notice for the December 18th hearing by the Township Zoning Officer, dated December 3rd, 2019. Exhibit B17 is the affidavit of mailing of notice for December 18th hearing by the Zoning Officer, dated December 3rd, 2019, with the list of property owners to whom the notice was sent. Exhibit B18 is a review letter from the Chester County Planning Commission, dated October 18th, 2019, for this application. Exhibit B19 is a review letter from McCormick Taylor, the Township Civil Engineer, dated October 3rd, 2019. Exhibit B20 is a review letter from Carroll Engineering Corporation, the Township's Sanitary Sewer Consultant, dated October 3rd, 2019. Exhibit B21 is a review letter from John Snook, the Township's Land Planner, dated October 3rd, 2019. Exhibit B22 is a revised review letter from John Snook, Township Land Planner, dated October 17th, 2019. Exhibit B23 is a review letter from Albert Federico of Albert Federico Consulting, the Township's Traffic Engineer, dated October 15th, 2019. Exhibit B24 is a review letter from the Westtown East Goshen Police Chief, Brenda Burnett, last revised October 3rd, 2019. Exhibit B25 is the Highway Occupancy Permit Review Letter for this application from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, dated October 11th, 2019. Exhibit B26 is the review letter from Cedarville Engineering Group, the Township's Stormwater Management Consultant, dated November 1st, 2019. Exhibit B27 is an email dated November 7th, 2019, from Mark Scanlon, the Assistant Chief of the Westchester Fire Department, to the Township's Zoning Officer for this application. Exhibit B28 is an email dated November 19th, 2019, from Mark Gross, the Township's Public Works Director, to the Township's Zoning Officer regarding this application. Exhibit B29 is the recommendation of the Westtown Township Planning Commission, dated December 13th, 2019. Those are the board exhibits for this evening's hearing. I have a number of other housekeeping items to run through with the public as well as with the applicant. I'd like to start with one question for Mr. Edelman. Obviously, Mr. Edelman, Mr. DiDomenico is up here and participating in the hearing this evening. I think, as you're aware, of the last election, Mr. DiDomenico was not re-elected, and Mr. Pomerantz was elected. Mr. Pomerantz will be participating in the hearing when we reconvene in January. Do you have any objection to either of them participating either tonight or in January?
No, I have no objection.
Thank you. So for those of you that were not with us for the Crebilly I application, let me give you a little bit of background on what the conditional use process is all about. In this particular development, there's going to be a two-step process. First is the conditional use process, and if and when that is complete, the applicant still has to go through the land development process. The difference between the two primarily is that the land development process is much more technical and has highly engineered plans. In this case, our conditional use requirement still is fairly burdensome to the applicant in that there's a lot of information that they have to provide to you under the flexible development procedure. What the board is hearing is only about the use, and the use in this case is flexible development. They have to demonstrate to you compliance with the ordinance requirements. So what you have to start with is that the use is permitted. What they want to do is allowed on this property, but it's their burden to demonstrate compliance with the ordinance first. So that's why they will initially proceed. Assuming they do that, and that is for the board to determine when they issue their decision, the burden then shifts on the objectors or any other party to demonstrate that the development will have impacts above and beyond those which are already expected from the development to the health, safety, and welfare of the township or the residents. So that's a little bit about the conditional use process that you're going to be hearing over what I'm sure will be several nights. The board in particular, I think, was very proud of the fact with the way everyone conducted themselves during the first conditional use hearing. I think we made that pretty clear, and we'd like to ask that everyone continue that spirit of respectfulness in the second application. I understand that many of you may not agree with what the applicant wants to do, and the board is interested in hearing from you on that. But we'd like to remain civil throughout this process. That's the way we conduct ourselves in Westtown. And we would ask that you please be respectful to Mr. Edelman, to your other residents, and to the board throughout this process. As many of you also know, there is an appeal of the first application. So a little bit of background on that. I'm not going to delve into it too much. There was an initial application which the board denied. The applicant appealed that decision to the Court of Common Pleas, which for the most part sustained and agreed with the board's conditional use denial. That was further appealed to the Commonwealth Court, which just recently, as of last week, finally issued a decision. Some of those items that the board decided went in favor of the applicant, some of them went in favor of the township. That is a separate matter that we are not here on tonight. That is still active. The parties have a certain period in which they can decide whether they want to appeal or not. At this juncture, nothing that the Commonwealth Court has said precludes the applicant from processing this application and moving forward. So know that it's out there, but know that this is a different plan than what was initially denied and which is still relevant and out there with the Commonwealth Court. I don't know if any appeals will be taken, and I won't know that at least until next month. So that's probably the last you're going to hear us talk about that appeal, but I wanted everyone to have a little bit of background. The process for tonight, what the applicant has agreed to is to resolve the party status requests for tonight. When each of you come up and make your request, the applicant may stipulate to you becoming a party as they did during the first hearing. In fact, I think there's a number of parties who were parties in Crebilly I who the applicant will stipulate to. But he has the right to object to your request for party status. So what I would ask is that when you come up to the microphone and make your request, that you identify yourself, where you reside. You'll hand your party status request to our paralegal Jody down here. She'll collect them for you. But then I'd like to ask you to remain at the microphone while we hear from the applicant on whether or not they agree to your request, whether they object, and if they object, they have the right to ask you questions. What they will likely ask you, which is relevant to the board, is how close in proximity do you live to Crebilly Farm? What I'll want to know from you is, did you receive a copy of the notice of the hearing in the mail? Those are the two primary questions that you're going to hear, and that is relevant to the board's decision. Starting in January 2020, the applicant will start their case in chief. Tonight, all we're going to do is resolve party status, so you're not going to hear from any witnesses this evening. That's actually a good thing, as that will allow everyone who requests a party status to know whether or not you are a party in case you want to prepare for the hearings as we move forward. The applicant will present their case in chief first. Anyone who is made a party will have the opportunity to cross-examine their witnesses. Once the applicant finishes their case in chief, we simply move down the line to the next party, whoever that may be, and they will make their case in chief. After all of the parties have made their cases, it then goes back to the applicant to decide whether or not they want to offer any rebuttal. They don't have to, they may choose to do so. Following rebuttal, anyone who is not a party will have an opportunity to comment during public comment. As we did the last time, we want to hear from anyone who's interested in this application, one way or the other. And then following public comment, we'll likely afford the parties, if they'd like to make a closing statement, brief that it may be, and then I would expect, as we did in the first hearing, that we may allow the parties, particularly anyone who's represented by counsel, an opportunity to submit legal briefs or memorandums to assist the board in their decision. I'd like to give you all a heads up on the hearing dates that we have scheduled coming up so that you can mark your calendars and hopefully be available. So we have confirmed that there will be a hearing on Thursday, January 30th, 2020, in this room at Ruston, starting at 6 o'clock, and we will typically go no later than 10 o'clock with a break somewhere in between. We're going to convene on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. That will be at Stetson from 6 until 10 p.m. And then I was able to confirm today that we will be back here at Ruston on Wednesday, March 25th, 2020, again from 6 until 10 p.m. I'm doing my best to try to keep us all in one location. It's just easier from a logistics standpoint. It's not as confusing. I can't always do that. I will tell you it's a challenge with the school's calendar. Stetson is probably the backup. If you recall, we also last time had to go to Westtown School. For everyone's sake, I'm trying to avoid that, and we will be looking at additional dates soon, assuming that they are needed. So briefly, since we're here on party status requests, let's discuss what it means to become a party to the hearing. So everyone has the right to request party status. If the request is granted, you are then permitted to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses, cross-examine any other witnesses. You are then free to offer your own witnesses, your own testimony, your own exhibits. It also permits you to appeal the decision of the township if you are dissatisfied with that decision. You do not need to be made a party if you simply want to make a comment one way or the other about the application. My expectation for tonight is that the board will hear all the party requests, that we will take a brief recess to confer and discuss if there's any parties that have been objected to, and then come back on the record and make a ruling as to those party status requests so that everyone has clarity moving forward. So those are my multiple housekeeping items for this evening. I appreciate everyone's patience. Mr. Edelman, do you have anything before we begin?
No, I do not.
So earlier today, I was presented with a list of parties that the applicant will stipulate to relative to the first hearing. And in fact, I'm going to mark that as an additional board exhibit. That will be B39. With that was an email, B30. There was an email from Mr. Edelman that accompanied that. And what I'd like to do to start, I only have the one copy. What I'd like to start with on the party status, as it may expedite things, is to go down Mr. Edelman's list, since I know he has no objection to 30 plus parties, and find out if you are here, and if you are, if you'd like to become a party. That will help us get through this process first, and then we'll take anyone that's not on that list, if that's all right. So, Neighbors for Crebilly, I believe, is here. Is that right?
Max O'Keefe from the firm of Lamb Mackling on behalf of Neighbors for Crebilly LLC.
Mr. Edelman, just confirming then you would have no objection to Neighbors for Crebilly?
That's correct.
Okay. So you are admitted as a party? Thank you. The Westchester Area School District, I believe Mr. Bevilacqua is here, is that correct? Can you come up to the microphone, sir? Hang on, let's see if we can get that turned on. He's turning it on. Okay, can we try it? No. Gary, try it.
It doesn't appear to be on.
Yeah, you're on.
It's on, okay. All right. Yeah, Dr. Scanlon sent a letter into to the township, to Mr. Pingar, and both Dr. Scanlon as the superintendent and myself as the property and finance manager, director, we're both on the list, so.
Can you try to speak up?
Yeah, it's on now. The mic was on. Sorry, Carol. Yeah, so both Dr. Scanlon sent a letter to the township, to Mr. Pingar, that both has his name as the superintendent and mine as the property and finance committee chair, that both of us would be head party status. So he'll be the primary, I'll be the backup for him.
And I do have that email from December 3rd. I'll mark that as B31. Mr. Edelman, are you okay with that?
Yes, no objection.
Thank you, Mr. Bevilacqua.
I did have one other entity that I had party status last time. I do have a form for that too, and that was for the West Glen Homeowners Association, which is located right at the intersection of 926 and 202.
Correct, and no objection to that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Randall Spackman here this evening?
Mr. McKenna, the record will reflect Mr. Spackman had reached out to me previously, and I informed him that we'd have no objection to the Thornberry Farm Trust.
Thank you, Mr. Edelman.
You're welcome.
Mr. Default or anyone for Brandywine at Thornberry Homeowners Association? Yes, sir. Would you mind coming up to the microphone?
Everybody hear me okay? Hear me okay?
Yes.
Peter Default retired a couple of months ago. I'm with the new representative. I filled out the party status application. I have a resolution as well from the...
Okay. Would you mind handing that over to Ms. Bowden over here so she has the record? And then Mr. Edelman, any objection then?
No objection.
Thank you. Mr. McFalls, are you here for Westminster Presbyterian Church? Yes. Okay. And again, Mr. Edelman, any objection?
No, no objection.
Mr. Ferrio or anyone on behalf of the Quarry Swimming Association here this evening?
Yeah, hi. My name is Nick Markowski. I'm a local resident on Serpentine Drive. I'm the vice president of the Quarry Swimming Association, and I'm here for Sparrow.
Any objection?
No objection.
Tom Martin or anyone on behalf of Radley Run 3 Homeowners Association?
My name is Jack DeVries, homeowner for Homeowners Association for Radley Run, and would like to continue to be included.
No objection.
Thank you. The Arborview Homeowners Association, is there anyone here for that? I believe Ms. Hoffman was going to reach out to you.
Yes, and she did, and I was confirmed for the record that we had no objection to their participation as a party.
Thank you. Kurt Walter, on behalf of Westtown Village LLC, or anyone on behalf of Westtown Village LLC? Okay, then I'll wait till we get to you then, sir. And then maybe you. Are you Mr. Gadaletto? Okay. Any objection?
No.
Bradley or Amy Harkins? Are the Harkins here this evening? Mr. Mamakari?
No objection.
Thank you, sir. Philip Jones?
Philip Jones. I want to be sure my wife's added to that. Susan Jones?
No objection.
Thank you, sir. Allison Portman? (1007) Dunvegan Road. Anyone for Portman? Benjamin Scupp? Anybody here from 1015 Dunvegan? Diana Larares? Can you tilt that microphone down for you?
Members, 1054 John Milton Road, Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Thank you, ma'am.
No objection.
Ed Boyer?
My name's Ed Boyer, 1059 Dunvegan Road.
No objection.
I'd like to also see if I could add my wife to that as well. I have a form for her as well.
Sure. And her name, sir?
Juanita.
Sure, no objection.
Thank you. Amy Murnane? Amy Murnane. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly. 1046 West Niels Lane. Mr. Crebilly? 609 John Anthony Drive, Mr. Crebilly. Robert Dahl?
Hi, Mr. Dahl was called out of town, but he is still interested in becoming, in remaining a party.
And your name, sir?
John Helium, 1164 Lake Drive.
I don't have an objection. Maybe you could just send an email in subsequent to the hearing.
Sure. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Scott Sobers? Mr. Sobers? 108 Hidden Pond Way? Walter Pavlicek? I believe Mr. Pavlicek is here this evening. Philip Yeager? Thank you. Jim Cahill? David Pies, 1050 Dunvegan.
No objection.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer Kramer?
Jennifer Kramer, 1046 Dunvegan Road.
No objection.
Thank you, ma'am. Megan Bruns? Ed Scross? Eileen Carey? Jim McDermott? Patricia and Dennis McFadden?
Danny and not Patricia. I'd like to have my wife. 1010 General Green Drive.
No objection.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Reichert? That's 301 West Pleasant Grove Road. Carol Weller?
No objection.
All right, at this time, I want to move down to those parties who have counsel here this evening, and then we'll ask anyone who we haven't already mentioned to come up and make your party status requests. So why don't we just go straight across here.
Kristen Camp, representing the Westtown Township Planning Commission. The Planning Commission requests the party status. We believe that Section 209.110 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code allows the Planning Commission to be a party and to present testimony before the board in this conditional use hearing.
And as I objected in the first conditional use hearing, I'll renew my same objection that I don't believe the MPC permits the Planning Commission to be a party appellant before the board in the case of a conditional use. And I believe, Mr. McKenna, I did send you an email including the objection and the Planning Commission's prior response, and noting the case law that you had provided in the prior hearing as well. So I have no objection to having that admitted as part of the overall record.
I don't know that we'll need it, but I do have it if that is necessary.
Okay.
So we'll note the objection, and the board will make its decision this evening.
Frontville Crawford, counsel for Birmingham Township, requesting party status for Birmingham, located immediately to the west of New Street and affected potentially by stormwater, water quality, traffic, and the battlefield issues.
No objection.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Catherine Rayburn, solicitor for Thornbury Township, Chester County, which shares the southern border of the proposed site, requesting party status for Thornbury Township.
No objection.
And as previously noted, Neighbors for Crebilly has already made the request, which was stipulated to. So with all of that in mind, what I'd like to do, if there's additional parties who would like to make their requests here this evening, if you could approach either of the microphones, and we'll go one at a time. We'll try to get your names and addresses. The applicant has an exhibit that they may refer to, which is a map of properties within the vicinity, so he may ask you to look at that as well. What we'll do is we'll try to go back and forth to give everyone an opportunity. Bear with me for 1 second. Ma'am, why don't we start with you?
Karen Brine, G-R-E-I-N, resident of 1262 Audubon Road, Thornbury Estates.
Ma'am, did you receive a copy of the notice of the hearing?
Yes.
Ma'am, approximately how far are you located from the subject property?
Less than a mile.
All right, I have no objection.
Thank you, ma'am. You'll be admitted. Yes, sir?
Myron Brubaugh, 1024 Dunvegan Road. I'd also like to have my wife Sharon at both forms. We are members of Neighbors for Crebilly and had status under Neighbors for Crebilly first.
All right, so bear with me 1 second. Can you spell your last name for me?
G-R-U, B as in boy, A-U-G-H.
And your address again?
1024 Dunvegan Road, Westchester.
Did you receive a copy of the notice of the hearing in the mail?
No, we did not.
I don't have an objection based on the location of their property.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edelman. You'll be admitted, sir.
My wife too?
Yes. Yes, sir.
David Berger, and I'd like to have my wife Iris also, 1009 Dunvegan Road. And did not receive a notice of the hearing.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last name again. Could you repeat that, please?
Berger, B-E-R-G-E-R.
I don't have any objection based on the location of the property.
Thank you, Mr. Edelman. Sir, you'll be admitted. Yes, sir.
John Helian, 1164 Lake Drive.
Try again. Sorry, I missed it.
John Helian, 1164 Lake Drive.
Can you spell your last name for me, please?
H-E-L-I-O-N.
Did you receive a copy of the notice, sir, in the mail?
Did not.
I do not have an objection based on the location of the property.
Thank you, Mr. Edelman. Sir, you'll be admitted. Yes, sir, your name.
Victor and Karen Malatesta, and we are at 515 West Pleasant Grove Road. And yes, we did receive a copy in the mail.
Can you spell your last name for me, sir?
Sure, M as in Mary, A-L-A, T as in Tom, E-S-T-A.
Thank you.
No objection.
Thank you, sir. You'll be admitted as a party. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ann Helian. I live at 1164 Lake Drive on the corner of 926 and Lake Drive.
Can you spell your last name for me, ma'am?
It looks like Helion, H-E-L-I-O-N.
Not the first time someone's asked you that, clearly.
You could say that. Just don't call me a Hellion.
Yes, ma'am. Did you receive a copy of the notice in the mail?
No, we did not.
I don't have an objection based on the location of the property.
Thank you, ma'am. You'll be admitted as a party.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gerald Mork, 756 Brinton's Bridge Road.
Could you repeat that address, please, sir? I'm sorry.
756 Brinton's Bridge Road, Westchester, PA, 19382.
Did you receive a copy of the notice in the mail?
No.
Sir, approximately how far away from the property are you located?
2.8 miles.
Okay, I have an objection based on the location of his property as being too far from the subject property.
Okay. Sir, could you just tell me again what your last name was? I apologize.
M-O-R-K.
M-O-R-K.
Is there a rebuttal to that statement?
Sure.
The rebuttal is that we live very close to where South New Street comes into Brinton's Bridge Road. Much of the traffic that is displaced by this development will come down South New Street and then go either in front of